Hello from Seoul! You probably cooked seafood noodle soup at home, imagining the one you ate at the restaurant. However, I'm sure it was kind of let down or totally different taste, even if you follow the recipe. But after watching this video, that kind of thing is not gonna happen. Alright, let's get started. Today, what I'm gonna make is called Jjamppong, Korean spicy seafood noodle soup. And I dare say, it's one of the dishes that you can easily mess up at home. Because if you make it at home, it easily becomes too fishy. I mean, it can be a weird and strange seafood soup that you never had. However, unlike the name, it shouldn't taste like the sea. It sounds very difficult to make it, right? But as always, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Just follow my lead. You will be needed pork, shrimp, mussel, and squid. But you don't have to use the exact same ingredients as mine. As always, you can use any seafood that you have. And shiitake mushroom, button mushroom, napa cabbage, onion, bok choy, and of course green onion. Let's prep the ingredients one by one. To make delicious jjamppong, you need to stir fry all the ingredients very quickly. So it's better to prepare all the ingredients in advance. Let's slice pork first. Today, I'm gonna use 80 grams of pork belly, but it doesn't matter if you use any cut of pork. But I recommend using cuts with some fatty parts to make a deep broth. At this point, some of you might wanna ask, Aaron, why do you need pork? It's seafood soup. Yes, jjamppong contains a lot of seafood, but as I said earlier, when you taste the broth alone, it shouldn't taste like the seafood. It should be neat and clean. There's a huge gap between the name seafood noodle soup and the real taste. I blame the person who translated this name into English for the first time. Next, prepare 2 or 3 shrimp per serving. If you cut through its back like this, it will wide open like a beautiful butterfly when it's cooked. It means you could score some brownie points with your girlfriend or boyfriend. You're welcome. Don't thank me. You can use fresh shrimp or frozen shrimp like me, but I don't recommend cooked shrimp because while you're cooking, it can get too tough or rubbery. This time, let's prepare squid. You can cut this any way you like, but for a better looking, I recommend scoring the inside diagonally. Then you might feel like you're at a fancy restaurant. Plus, if you cut it like this, you will feel the squid is more tender, but if you don't want to touch fresh slimy squid, you can use frozen squid flowers. That's much easier and simpler. I like that way more. Place 3 handfuls of mussels in a bowl and wash them with running water. To be honest, if you don't want to prep all the seafood, you can use a frozen seafood mix. No problem at all. The reason why I'm using fresh seafood is I'm responsible to show you the best. Now, let's move on to the vegetables. First, let's prep napa cabbage. 2 or 3 leaves will be enough. Cut frilly yellow-green part into bite-sized pieces and slice them thinly. Actually, it's not that important, but if you prep like this, people will think you're a professional chef or something. This is how to show off. So bring some people and let them watch. Let me read your mind again. At this point, some of you might wanna ask, Aaron, can I use cabbage? Right? My answer is yes, you can. Since this white cabbage is cheaper than napa cabbage, many Korean Chinese restaurants also use this, but please consider that there will be a taste difference, alright? Slice half of an onion. If your onion is bigger or smaller than mine, please adjust the amount. Also, if you cut it too thinly, it can get mushy while stir frying, so I recommend cutting it into the size of your fingernail. Next, bok choy. Wash them with running water and trim off the stems first. Slice them right down the middle if it's necessary. I got a variety of vegetables from the supermarket, but honestly, you can use any kind of vegetables that you have in your fridge. Even the leftover vegetables will be fine, unless they have a strong scent. This time, let's move on to mushrooms. Again, you can use any kind of mushroom you have, but I strongly recommend this shiitake mushroom. It will make your broth so deep and its texture will be fantastic. If you can't get this, you can only use this button mushroom. No problem at all. Just slice them into bite-sized pieces. Again, if they are too thin or too small, they can get mushy while stir frying, so I recommend cutting them into large chunks like this. Lastly, I'm gonna prep your favorite. Yes, that's right, it's green onion time. It's better to use this white part because it has more intense green onion flavor compared to the green part. About this much will be enough. Chop it into small pieces. FYI, Claire likes a little more spicy jjamppong, so I'm gonna prepare a half of chili pepper, but this is optional. Now, you might wanna ask, Aaron, can we start stir frying now? Sadly, no, not yet. For information, this is where most people mess up their jjamppong at home. If you're not a very skilled cook, it's not easy to put the right seasoning at the right time while stir frying it. Especially for jjamppong, what we need is speed. So we're gonna put all the seasonings in separate bowls in advance. This way, you can cook it gracefully. I mean, you don't have to run in the kitchen anymore to find every single seasoning. Don't pretend it didn't happen. I know it was your story, my friend. First, put 2 tablespoons of Korean chili pepper flakes, a half tablespoon of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of sake. If you can't get this, you can use white wine or mirin as a substitute. But for information, if you put white wine or mirin, the broth can be slightly sweeter, so I would rather go for sake. Put 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce. There's no substitute for oyster sauce. Sorry about that. And we need 1.5 tablespoons of chicken powder. You can use different kind of chicken stock or something like that, but most of the restaurants use this one. I'm using this to make it a restaurant version. Now put 1 teaspoon of salt and a little bit of black pepper. Usually white pepper is used, but I don't have it at the moment. It's gonna be alright, don't worry about it. Lastly, prepare 4.5 cups of water. Now everything is ready. Pour some water into a pot, not the one we prepared. When it's boiling, add 1 teaspoon of chicken powder and blanch all the seafood. This is not necessary, but this way you can get more umami flavor. Usually in restaurants, they rapidly stir fry seafood and vegetables all together over extremely high heat. Since they have a much larger flame, you can get rid of the fishy smell that even fresh seafood has. But sadly, we can't get that flame with our stove, right? So that's why I'm blanching the seafood first. If you stir fry vegetables with seafood at home, you will get very fishy soup which tastes like the sea. Again, jjamppong should not taste fishy. It should be neat and clean. Put 3 tablespoons of oil in a wok and add 2 tablespoons of minced garlic and a quarter teaspoon of minced ginger. Now turn on the heat to medium heat. Once they start sizzling in the oil, add the pork belly and stir fry it. When it's cooked on the outside, put a half tablespoon of soy sauce around the edge of the wok and stir it. This way, you can get a smoky umami flavor. Right after that, add chopped green onions and stir fry a little more to extract all the good flavor from green onions. Now put the rest of the vegetables and stir fry everything. When you cook at home, you don't need amazing wok skills. Just grab a spatula and keep stirring it. I'm just doing it because I have to look more professional, right? When the vegetables are slightly cooked, add 2 tablespoons of Korean chili pepper flakes and keep stirring. What is important here is you should not burn the chili pepper flakes. Then what am I supposed to do? Should I turn down the heat? No, you don't have to do that. Just add some sake here. If you don't have it, you can put some water too. Since our stoves don't have that large flame, if you keep stirring it, it's hard to burn it unless you go to the bathroom because of cold brown. From now on, you need to stir enough until you get this beautiful red color like mine. If you stir it too short, you can get the taste of authentic jjamppong. Now we're gonna add water, but if you add this water all at once, it's very hard to get the deep broth. So we're gonna add water 3 times little by little. First, pour a little bit of water to cover the ingredients and change the heat to high heat and boil for at least 3 minutes. The reason why I'm doing this is you can extract all the good flavor quickly from the ingredients. However, if you add all the water, you need to boil it for too long. So if you follow this recipe at home, make sure not to pour the water all at once. Let's pour some water one more time and boil it again. Now pour the remaining water and add 1 tablespoon of oyster sauce, 1.5 tablespoons of chicken powder, 1 teaspoon of salt and pepper, and then boil it with all the blanched seafood. Take a sip of the broth and check if it's okay for you. If it's too salty, you can add more water, but since we're gonna eat this with the noodles, it has to be a little saltier than you think. While the soup is boiling, let's cook the noodles. I'm gonna use frozen Korean Chinese noodles, but if there's no such thing in the Korean grocery store around your place, then you can just use Korean knife cut noodles or fresh ramen or udon noodles. I don't know which noodles you're gonna use, but each noodle has to be cooked in a different way, so make sure to read the cooking instruction at the back. I'm gonna rinse the noodles briefly in the cold water because this will make the noodles more chewy, but do not serve the noodles right away. We should make the noodles warm again before adding the broth. Although we're gonna pour the hot broth over the noodles, if the noodles are cold, it won't be hot noodle soup that you're looking for, so please don't forget. I'll give you one more tip so that you can show off to your family family or friends. When you're plating, place some kind of fancy ingredients like shrimp or squid in the center and put the mussels around them. What do you think? Looks fancy, right? Then let's call our taste tester.
Claire?
Wow! I've never imagined I can have jjamppong which is not takeout or delivery food. It looks fantastic, right? 비주얼 미쳤네. 오, 국물 먼저. 오, 식당에서 사 먹는 맛이네. 대박. Like it. 오, 맛있겠다. You know what? It's rainy right now, so it's even more perfect. 맛있어. 엄청 맛있어. 예술이네. 보통 식당에서는 약간 새우가 조그맣거나 혹은 많이 있진 않잖아. 근데 확실히 집에서 이렇게 듬뿍듬뿍 넣어주니까 너무 급이 다르다. 그치? When I was a little kid, my mom asked me, do you want jjamppong or jjajangmyeon when you order Korean Chinese food? And I always picked jjajangmyeon black bean noodles because it's sweet and savory. But nowadays, I prefer to eat this jjamppong because in jjajangmyeon, there are some vegetables and a very small amount of pork. But look at this jjamppong, it has a lot of fresh seafood. So whenever I pick this jjamppong, I feel like I earn some money. 짬뽕 사 먹지 말자. 이게 더 맛있는 것 같은데? 좋아해.
Today, I showed you how to make jjamppong. Now it's time to say goodbye to some kind of strange homemade seafood soup. If you've been wondering why it doesn't taste like a restaurant version, I hope you try this recipe. Alright, this is it for today, and I'll see you next time.